Hi everyone, this is actually like take 256 of this. I wanted to show you my craft room and basically just go into more detail this time, so it's not just me, you know, giving you clips with music. So today I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail, but I'm going to try to do it short and sweet because it pretty much cuts me off after about 13 minutes. That seems to be the limit. So we're going to keep it nice and sweet, nice and short. Let's get started. So here I have my botanicals that I'm going to start putting in my books. I put them in the oven first to get rid of any, you know, moldage issues or any bugs, and then after that I put them in books and flatten them up. Over here we have my coffee dye setup, where I have regular coffee, I have instant coffee, and then I even have K-cups in there just to see what it does. And I go ahead and I use this for regular coffee so I don't get any of the grinds, because I personally prefer a less grungy look with my coffee dye. I know it's all about preference, so I sometimes do a more grungy look for other people, but me personally, I like it less grungy. So more often than not, I make it less grungy, and I make it look more aged and less like coffee has actually spilt on it. What I'm spraying here is a huge bottle of coffee dye with a blue-green tint shimmer, and that is because I put eyeshadow in it, very fine dusted eyeshadow. I'm dabbing it off because I like a less grungy look. And then what I like to do is put it over here on the potty pad, and this one's not that wet because I didn't dip it or paint it. There are lots of ways to coffee dye, and I have videos on that in pending right now, and I do all of them. I paint the coffee on, I dip the coffee, I spray the coffee, I use Kool-Aid, I use Kool-Aid coffee mix, I use tea, I use food dye, I use a little bit of everything. So I just wanted to show you that real quick, that process, and after this I'll usually either put it under my heat gun or put it in the oven. I just wanted to see if just maybe you could see the shimmer, and you can, from the eyeshadow. I think that's just such a nifty idea, and those sprays that usually cost like $8, $6 a bottle that have colors in the shimmers, well, you can make them with, what is that called? Eyeshadow as well. As far as the shimmer sprays, these are the ones I'm talking about. Basically, it's just color that shimmers, and I wanted to really quick just spray one. So that shimmers, and then, but I also make my own, and I put eyeshadow in it, and it pretty much works for like pennies on the dollar. It pretty much works the same. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the light for you, but I'm going to spray a couple more before I do that. Real quick, I just wanted to show you all the different eyeshadows and body glitters I used in my homemade sprays, which are all from the dollar store, minus the ones up here. But these are only like $1 or $2 themselves. So I'm going to bring these up to the light for you. Alright, so these are my shimmer sprays, my homemade shimmer sprays, and these are those $6, $8 ones you get from the store. I will admit that the $6, $8 ones are more pigmented, but I mean pigmented as far as the spray itself is darker, but that's something you can change. You can change how dark your initial spray is and whatnot, so it's all about trial and error. Mine are made out of alcohol, eyeshadow and acrylic paint, but I feel that they would have turned out better if I used, or if I had, what are these called? Food coloring at the time. So that's just a little tip. I do think they turn out better with alcohol, food coloring, and eyeshadow. Okay, so I am extremely limited on funds and am a huge advocate of the dollar store. Also free things, which is the beauty of a junk journal, is you really do get to put junk in it. So something I do a lot of is I pick up these paint chips a lot from Home Depot and Lowe's to the point of embarrassment. And I also pick up, you know when you like spray perfume on those things and sometimes they're really nice? Well, I also pick up a lot of those, again to the point of embarrassment. I reuse bottles. Whenever this is done, I'll reuse it for any of my sprays. Again, huge advocate of the dollar store. I got these from the dollar store and you can't really tell, but it's lace. It's not, you know, ribbon, it's lace. I got this huge like thing of buckets from the dollar store, and you can get little itty bitty miniature awesome little clips from the dollar store. I like to use things like this that I find, and I just so happen to have gotten this from the dollar store as what is it called? What is it called? Oh, I forget. I gotta move on. I'm running out of time. I got all these feathers and much more from the dollar store. Another thing I like to do with the ephemera part of it is I'll buy earrings and just use pieces of it as ephemera. And this came with 2 earrings, and I will have used this 4 times. That's 25 cents a piece of ephemera hanging off a book. Save old, you know, belt buckles and stuff. And again, that is part of the beauty of a junk journal. I know I may not be telling you anything new. Obviously, I know this is a well-known hack, but use these things instead of those expensive applicators for the distress inks, and even maybe instead of using distress ink, which I have done in a pinch, but you can actually use regular, you know, dollar Craft Smart ink for the edges and just mix up your colors until you get a color you like. These are just some of the many things I do to save money. For example, I can't afford a tripod or anything, so I use this to not only watch videos but tape them as well. I will go ahead and do a separate video on all the hacks that I do, as well as everything I use and get from the dollar store. Because even right here, the way that I am storing my stuff, it is so convenient, and it costed me $2 to store a lot of things on my wall right next to my desk. So I believe that your craft room should not only be functional, but it should also be inspirational. Hence the reason I have all of these images and beautiful things around my craft room, not just to remind me to use them and not hoard them, but also to inspire me to make different kinds of journals and to, you know, just general inspiration. Okay, so something I wanted to share with you that's been extremely helpful is right now I am working on a project. I'm working on a series of botanical books, so I'm going to be doing 3 of them. And it's a little series, and each one of them are going to have their similarities, and it's big, medium, small, but they're all pretty small. But what I do is I have a current box, and this is what I'm working on currently and the things that I'm going to want to be putting in these journals, and I try to keep everything that at least I know that I'm going to be putting them in one spot, and then I add to it as I learn that I'm putting more stuff in it. But it's been extremely helpful to not have to run around the craft room looking for, you know, similar things to put in this series. It's just been very, very helpful, and I wanted to share that with you. Another extremely helpful thing, I have future projects that I want to do, and I got these baskets from the dollar store, and they just so happened to perfectly fit paper. So what I do is I have future projects in each one of these. So one of them is a butterfly one of them is a fairy one of them is an Alice in Wonderland one, etc. and so on. And it takes the ease. It takes your mind off of, it's hard to explain. It's just very helpful, and I really wanted to share that with you. Okay, so another thing I do is I try to keep everything that I use often pretty much within, you know, arm's reach of me. And I have more of this stuff, but the stuff that I'm using often, I really try to keep right next to me within arm's reach. This way I could just grab it, and as I use it up, I can refill it, right down to paper, pins, all kinds of stuff, paints, and that's a really, really helpful hint. I know as a crafter, you pretty much just want to be surrounded by everything you have. And in a craft room, I am lucky enough to be surrounded by everything I have. But it just makes it that much easier to take little bits of things and put it all right in my grasp. That being said, down here, I have all of my papers. I have all of my pattern papers on a rolly table right underneath me, and under that I have a whole bunch of my dyed papers, all different kinds. I dyed papers in wine, coffee, tea, everything, like I said. So I have all my papers right there at my disposal as well, and I just roll them right back under the table. Now over here, instead of buying fabrics, I actually have old clothing that I cut up and I use as tags and whatnot. And that saves me a lot in, well, one, trips getting rid of my old clothing, and two, fabric. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I am a nerd, and I labeled everything in my craft room, not for my benefit, but for this video, because I personally know where everything is, but I wanted to be able to do a quick little, like this for example. This is my paper pick outline. Whenever I'm making a junk journal, I go through this line of papers, and then it actually jumps over into here, paper pick outline, and then even into here, and a little bit of everything ends up in these journals, and I literally come out to my paper pick outline. And over here I have books that have gorgeous pictures in them, and sometimes I even pull them out and put them, so it's all here. It's all right here in my paper pick out corner, I should say. I did also want to show you, as silly as this may be, the main tools I use as a junk journaler. Now, I don't have the luxury of, one, having a large sewing machine or knowing how to use one, so I use this little mini one. I use this mini ironer because I don't prefer a real grungy look. Of course, I use my awl, these pins to bind, and my heat gun, and I mainly use that now because I use the oven to do my papers mostly, but I mainly use it for embossing. Like, what do they call it? Dry embossing or wet embossing? You know, embossing with the heat gun. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I didn't cover nearly as much as I wanted to, so look forward to more videos from me. I hope to see you soon, and please stay tuned.